Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kelty Garby, and I'm Executive Director of Texas Rural Funders. Thank you for joining us this morning. Um, we are really excited to have you join the community webinar that we're putting on today. And so I just wanted to get started and give you a little bit of information about Texas Rural Funders if you haven't joined one of our events in the past. We are a membership organization for philanthropy, and our mission is to mobilize the power of philanthropy to strengthen rural Texas. So we have about 48 funder members from across the state and some national partners. And for funders, we provide a learning and collaboration network. But we also, when we identify resources that we think will be useful to rural communities, we make sure to disseminate those to you all. So we're focused for communities on sharing resources through our monthly newsletter. We have a grants hub on our website that we'll drop a link to in the chat. And then we do webinars like this one. So this is a community webinar, and these are free learning events. And again, it's when we identify something that we think will be really useful to you all, we make sure to send it back out into the world every once in a while in the form of a webinar. And so today we have with us Emerald Cassidy, who's with the Community Foundation of Abilene, and they are one of our members. She's the marketing and communications director, but that doesn't capture her dynamo communications expert nature. So often when I get communications from Community Foundation of Abilene, I will forward them internally to my colleagues and say, we should do something like this. And so we got to see Emerald do a presentation last summer, and we're so excited that we invited her to do this presentation for you all. So I'm going to hand it over to Emerald, and I think we're going to get a lot from her today. Thanks, Emerald.
Thank you, Kelty. Thank you, Evan. And just so excited to be here with all of you and share a message today regarding marketing. And I noticed the chat, we definitely have all sorts of communities represented, and we'll have some time for Q&A, but if you do have a question, I would welcome you to go off mute and ask. But here we go. We're going to share some screens and we'll get rolling. All right. So you should be able to see that okay.
Coming through great, Emerald.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So yes, marketing. As Kelty mentioned, we met at a conference that the foundation hosted last August, and that we hosted two different sessions related to marketing. One that was purely on events and new ideas regarding events, and then one that was just very high level on marketing and how to craft marketing messages that work. And when Kelty and Evan extended an invitation to host that particular workshop with all of you, I was ready to evangelize. I love marketing and I love our organization here at the foundation and what we get to do. And I feel like marketing can be a little bit of a balancing act between email, social media, content strategies, who you're partnering with other organizations. There's a lot to test out as far as new tactics, but what essentially is going to work for your organization, and we're going to get into that. All right, so a little bit about me. I have more than 15 years in marketing and PR experience, very active in the community here in Abilene. I'm a native Abilenian, went to school here, involved in various nonprofit boards, but previously to my role here at the foundation, worked in media relations and crisis comms for the university here, D1 University, and then in arts and entertainment, and have been here at the foundation now about 4 years. I am mom to Chase and Garrett, who are 4 and 2, and definitely get my cardio in with those two. And then married 13 years to my husband, Jason. But that's a little bit about me and about our organization. This is who we are. We're located in downtown Abilene, and we are in the middle of a building expansion at the foundation. So we are ripe with stories, and we are looking back as much as we are looking ahead. And some of the examples I'll share in the presentation today will be about using milestones or anniversaries as part of a content strategy. But this is who we are and where we're located. About the home team, we were founded in 1985, so we are celebrating our 40th birthday. Like I've mentioned to some people, maybe 40 is the new 30, but we're 40 years in. We have more than 245 million in assets since our founding. We manage more than 650 charitable funds. Our lifetime grant making is 220 million. We do host an annual giving day. It's called Abilene Gives. That started in 2017, and since that annual giving day started, we've raised 14 million. That day is held the first Tuesday in May. So this year that falls on Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. And what's unique about our giving day this year is that it will be our 10th and final. So we've dubbed it our final fiesta. But 14 million raised, and we usually average about 200 nonprofit organizations who register to participate through Abilene Gives. Also unique to our foundation is a competitive grant cycle that is specifically for our rural nonprofits. That was established in 2022, and since that time, it has awarded more than $1 million. So let's see. All right, so what are we going to get to today? What are our objectives? Marketing, I feel, is a contact sport, and every play counts. So from first down to touchdown, what's in your playbook? And we will be sharing examples about things that have worked for us here, things that I've seen out there in the wild. But what are those winning messages? Strong partnerships that could both leverage your brand and a brand partner. Ideas that worked, and then we'll open for question and answer. All right. So nonprofits have a unique competitive advantage. You have the opportunity to connect on a deeper level of trust with your supporters than the average company. When you think about the risk that these corporations take on because of either a product or how, their business model, with nonprofits, it's inherent that you are receiving trust because of the service in which you provide your donors to your community. A lot of that trust is built over time, but it's built much more quickly than for a corporation or business. You can connect deeply with your audience because of your mission, what you offer. And in today's competitive environment, standing out from the crowd is crucial. We're inundated with a lot of noise, a lot of messaging, but your donors and your community and your patrons want to hear from you, and they want to hear information that aligns with your mission and what it is you've been called to do. So what's in our playbook? Proven marketing strategies exist to help nonprofit organizations achieve key goals and development targets. So key themes for nonprofits, building momentum, building community, and building excitement. There are ways that we can rely on data, technology. Personalization is huge. Playing with heart. Here at the foundation, we can take personalization to a really deep level because, we're getting to know donors one-on-one. We sit down with them and we're able to identify those cause areas that mean the most to them when they establish their funds here. What are those priorities? And whenever we re-engage with them, we're able to identify opportunities that align with what they've set out as far as their philanthropic goal with their fund. Right. Raising more funds for your mission starts with a strategic investment in marketing. So what does that boil down to? It's getting points on the board. So consider a scenario where your leadership announces a last-minute fundraising campaign. We're no stranger to some of that. And the goal is $50,000. It might seem overwhelming. You might be confused where to start. But ideally, marketing should be involved from the get-go. Sometimes that campaign may have had several meetings already, and marketing is introduced at the very last minute. Sometimes you don't have a marketing director. Sometimes it's a volunteer group who someone says, hey, I know how to use Facebook, and you've been presented all of the campaign materials to create. It can be daunting, but it shouldn't be too late. There are still tactics that you can deploy to get points on the board. So what's tried and true that we have seen here at the foundation that works for us? Annual reports. Sometimes that's the dreaded annual report, but for our community and for our donors, people are still reading our annual reports. And I know that they still read it because there have been times where notes were shared about, hey, I really like the story, or here, here's a photo of, something that you featured. Had you seen it before? So people are reading your annual reports. If they're not reading the stories, those impact stories within your annual report, they are looking at the asset chart, your grant making, and the numbers. They're looking at the data. So annual reports are a great piece for us because yes, it does share the warm fuzzies about what we do, but it also gives insight into the critical nature of our mission through financials and data. Press releases. As it's a hard world out there as far as the media ecosystem. And here in Abilene, we run lean and mean. We do still have local media coverage through TV broadcast and a newspaper, but it's still running a little bit different than what we're used to. But press releases are still a great means for us to use as a vehicle for distributing information. And I'll have examples of how we are now nuancing our relationships with media. Photography, short form video, that could be either TikTok or Instagram or Facebook Reels, and then some user generated content. So these have been tried and true and a recipe for working well here at the foundation. And we'll have examples of what that looks like exactly here in a minute. So in the queue, when you're building your marketing campaign, consider your whole audience's journey, right? What is that pipeline from acquiring the awareness piece of that person to your organization, engagement? Maybe they followed along, they're either responding to a year-end campaign, or they're commenting on your social pieces, or they're attending your events. There's some sort of engagement. And then conversion and retention. So what is staying as far as your lineup with marketing combos? So we have some multi-channel things that need to happen. Digital, especially user-generated content on social media. If you have a board member who volunteered with your organization and they published something on their personal profile, that's user-generated content. They've leveraged your brand name, shown some piece of a story, and could you republish that on your own channels? So that's that idea of user-generated content. And then some personalization. Is there a way that you could segment some of your data or your audiences? One way that we like to approach this is with QR codes versus links. We might invite someone to scan a QR code to renew a membership online, whereas another audience may be provided an actual link within an embedded email. And we see who responds at a different rate and what piece was more successful. So there's segmentation in that aspect, personalized events, and then making sure that whatever you're including in your communication has a call to action. And what I mean by that is something beyond a learn more, a visit us, or contact us. There's reasons why we need to include calls to action because it continues that pipeline, that donor audience journey. And there have been times where I have received pieces, either an email or on Instagram or another social media platform, and I was given either a web link or a different call to action. Well, in those particular messages, the call to action was broken. This was a hospital system well known in Texas, and they were unveiling a partnership with another research institution, and they were unveiling a new mission. And it said to learn more or to donate, visit here. And I went to that link and it gave me a 404 error. And if you know anything about websites, a 404 equals BAD, bad. It's bad news. And I just thought, oh no. Well, I shared that link, that broken link, with a friend, and she's in the foundation world as well. And she had received a solicitation prior to the public announcement regarding contributing or fund, to the cause. And the donor link, even in that email, was broken. So please always make sure that your calls to action will resonate, but also that they're reliable. Either if they're reliable in redirecting someone to an online website or an email or a mail to, that you have verified that that call to action will be heard. All right, so here are some examples that I wanted to share. Last year we had devastation as far as flooding in both the Texas Hill Country and then San Angelo area. And oftentimes in disaster, our donors are looking to the foundation for ways that they can help. And what we did is, rather than establishing a fund, we redirected our donors in our community to funds established at these respective foundations. And so this is a Facebook post that we created with links to those organizations. And our calls to action were these unique web links called bit.lys. And what we're able to do through bit.ly links is track the actual click-throughs for these different foundations. So each of these is unique, and I can see on the back end how many people have clicked that, which is great because I'm able to then report back to our CEO and say, hey, yes, I know that 84 people liked, loved, cared, or showed some sort of emoji reaction to this post, but the bit.ly links were, tenfold. There were more people visiting the actual pages for the disaster funds, disaster and relief funds for these organizations than what we're reporting through engagement or comments or shares. Both are important. Both provide context to this communication, but bit.lys are just another tactic that you can deploy within your messaging if you need data to back up some of your strategies. Another way that you might do that is with reservations. If you're hosting an event and you think that no one is going to send back the return response with a snail mail, or you think that someone might click the link to RSVP through a bit.ly, that's one way you could achieve measuring which might be a better tactic. So another way that we continued the story here about the floods, we changed the homepage of our website to feature messaging about the floods, how you can help. That's how we phrased our call to action. It's not learn more or read more, how I mentioned earlier. It's instead how you can help. So when we expand into that press release, we had aggregated information that was already being collected by our peer foundations, and we were able to share reputable places that were providing services either monetarily or through response regarding the floods. And so each of these were also linked, web links, so people could learn more about those organizations. But this worked really well because I was able to take a version of this blog post and you saw replicate it for social, much more shortened copy. But a version of this was also shared with local media. So we were able to send a format to news regarding a press release. So, and then connecting news with representatives if they want to interview anyone from that area. How did it look like in email to our donors, to our community, to our subscribers? It was very, we included the photo so that there was consistency from what they would see on our website to also this email. It was similar to what they also saw on our social, so that stayed consistent, but the messaging still changed based on the vehicle. So here in the email, We have, an invitation to support the relief efforts through directing a grant from a donor advised fund. We had the two options for our peer communities at the different foundations, both Hill Country and San Angelo. We thought it was important to include both because while the Community Foundation of the Texas Hill Country was receiving a lot of press and a lot of national attention, there was still impact there in San Angelo. So we wanted to be sure that whatever messaging we were distributing also included information about both communities. So that's one use case. But in moving on into some other things that you can employ as far as digital or video or photography, anecdotally, I can share that I thought, some of the data that I've been seeing out there, I don't know if it's true, but I did see that a lot of more video streaming is out there. And one statistic that I found was that in 2022, digital video consumption surpassed TV viewing for the first time in the United States. And that is on connected TVs. If your TV has apps, mobile devices, and computers, all that is continuing to grow. And where it resonated the most is whenever I thought about my parents. My parents are both retired. My mother was a homemaker. My dad retired twice. Some of may know how that goes, but he retired, and I thought, okay, they're kind of like that ideal target audience for us at a foundation. And in thinking through this marketing playbook and what I could use as far as sharing messages about the foundation, sharing stories, those impact moments, do I really need to publish a Facebook reel? Would that resonate? And I thought it sure does. My dad will often in the group text, in our family group text, share, hey, anyone see this YouTube video? He is on YouTube. He is checking out those YouTube shorts, and he is in his 70s, and it completely mirrored this graph from the Pew Research Center. So when we think about who is on their smartphone, this was really interesting to me because if you look at the tail end of the data in 2025, the second spot is adults who are 65 and older who are using smartphones. They're using it to connect to their providers. If it's telehealth, they're also using it for connection to others, whether that's with social media, with checking Facebook to see pictures of their grandkids or learning new skills. But 65 and older, after the 18 to 29-year-olds, I thought that was really interesting and a way for me to even further solidify the importance of using more digital strategies in my marketing playbook. So can you take it online? Is there something that makes sense for you to take it online? Well, for millennials and Gen Z who may not donate, it could be due to poor social media presence. Does it mean that you need to publish something every day? I can tell you when I worked at the D1 University, we were publishing every day because that's how we were recruiting to prospective students in high school. We had to, show pieces of campus life, and that changed every day. We want to be fluid, active, but for your organization, that may not make sense. If you're volunteer based, you may not have the capacity or the bandwidth to capture content every day, or maybe there's not a lot of events that are taking place that you could capture new content all the time. But something that is doable for you, either weekly, or I'm going to share at least one newsletter a month and publish on our social every week. What is doable for you? You have to take that into account and stay consistent with that, because people are noticing. It's the number one reason that Gen X might not donate to an organization if there's an outdated website. It doesn't mean that your website has to have all the glitter and gizmos and gadgets on it, but if you have a page on your website that talks about meet the team, and your organization has been there 20, 30 years, and there's no team photo because it says coming soon, that might be an indication that we're not ready to, work with that organization if we've not updated the team landing page. And that has happened. But there's just a balancing act right now between digital and traditional methods for your marketing playbook. So here are some more examples of how we've done that here at the foundation. We manage more than 600 funds here, and those also include funds that are scholarships. So these are competitive scholarships. Students apply each year. And in fact, the deadline for our scholarship ended March 1st. And our scholarship director said that there were more than 1,200 submissions on our website for scholarship applications. But once that whittles down to the final award recipients, what we do is we ask the students to record a video. And the video is a thank you video that we in turn provide to the donor for them to see their student. If they're not able to attend the in-person scholarship reception that we host, each donor at least receives this thank you video. And it's the student saying, hi, my name is, and thank you so much, and the name of the scholarship, what they're going to school to study, where they're going, and any other, niceties that they want to include in the video. What we then do is we package the video using Canva, and that is a free tool. Some of you may be on there already, but they provide creative help for nonprofits. So like graphic design and other sort of, creativity as assets that you can use from their website. You can register for a nonprofit account. Well, we're able to apply our branding and create some videos. And what we do is the intro of the video will have some CFA branding, some Community Foundation branding. And then we plop in the video of the student, and then we have a nice little logo at the end. Well, we upload those to our YouTube page, and each of the videos are unlisted. No one else sees this except for the donor. Well, we collect these videos every year. We have for the last, 5 to 7 years, we've done these videos. Well, you can see on the view count, it's probably only the donor, if they send it to their grandma or their cousin to come watch, but it's only a handful of views, and the videos are sometimes really sweet. If you have a student that goes a little extra, does a little bit more to say thank you, the videos are just, really great. And I thought there's got to be a way that we can repurpose the content that we've already gathered in a way for our social. And so Thanksgiving was around the corner. And what we did is we took pieces of various videos and compiled them into a Thanksgiving post on gratefulness. And so let me play that here for you guys so you can watch.
My name is Brooks Clippinger.
Hi, my name is Eden Sol.
Hello, my name is Robert Sierra.
I would like to thank the Community Foundation of Abilene for awarding me the Senora Stacy Horton Sanchez Scholarship.
I would like to thank the Grant family for the Casey Grant Memorial Scholarship.
I would like to thank Advanced VOIP Solutions for the scholarship they've given me. This scholarship will help me achieve my dream of becoming an electrical engineer, something I've been working towards for the past 2 years.
This scholarship will help me tons with my schooling, tuition, and purchase of books and so many other things. I am deeply grateful for this opportunity, and I'll strive to do my best as I go on to Midwestern State University. Thank you.
I will use the money at TSCC Waco and diesel mechanics to get my tools and get my tuition paid for.
I just wanted to say a big thank you to the donors behind the Dr. Brady Cox Memorial Scholarship, the Jean and Curly Hay Scholarship, and the Big Country County Medical Society Alliance Scholarship. I wouldn't be able to continue on my medical education journey without your support, and I hope that one day I'll become a physician that Abilene can be proud of.
The scholarship is such a blessing to me as it will help me to pursue my degree in elementary level education at Angelo State University this fall. I love that I went to the same high school that Miss Sanchez attended, and I hope that I can grow to become as good of a teacher as she was.
This scholarship is going to go to Texas Tech as I pursue business, and it's just going to be a great start on the journey. And I got to meet Kason whenever I was a kid, and just, you know, being able to relive that memory and be able to go to college because of his memory is really important to me.
And I just wanted to extend a heartfelt thank you to you for supporting my education and continuing my college career here at Oklahoma State. Being an out-of-state student really is a little bit harder when it comes to the financial burdens that I experience, and I'm really am thankful for your support and your generosity towards me and investing in students like me to help continue my education.
Howdy y'all, and I just want to take the time to thank the Salute to Citizens Scholarship Committee and especially Ms. Durbin for the scholarship, and I just pray that God blesses y'all beyond belief. Thank you so much, and keep going.
Thank you once again for the generous scholarship.
Thank you again for awarding me this scholarship.
Thank you so much for your generous support. It is greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much again for these generous scholarships.
Just again, thank you so much for the opportunity to receive this scholarship.
So really love that video. I am no videographer. You can tell that these were all done on the students' cell phones. There were no fancy lights or anything like that. It was all user-generated content that we repurposed. We didn't reinvent anything, and instead we repurposed it to be our Thanksgiving gratefulness post. But what we see coming is a lot more short form video. Our social media friends, the algorithm, the spooky algorithm, they are prioritizing these videos either through Instagram Reels or these Facebook Reels. And what I have seen, and I tried to include a screenshot and I didn't capture it this last time, but people sometimes will ask, well, do you boost or do you apply paid dollars on any of your content? And we have not done that here at the foundation as of late. We used to for our giving day, but we haven't done it to any of our regular content. And what I saw instead is that as we were publishing more short form videos, we were receiving messages from Facebook and Meta saying, hey, great job, keep it up. And in fact, we're going to boost on us the last few reels that you published. Well, that's great because each of those had a really great call to action in the comments, and was really good storytelling, really quick and easy digestible videos for people to watch. And I thought, okay, well, that's really cool. So we're keeping that up because Meta likes it. And if they're able to apply dollars when we play by their playbook, then we're going to keep it up. But, we also see some other rookies and dark horses coming. So AI, everyone is talking AI, and with AI data centers in our backyard here in Abilene, it's a little bit more close to home about how we are considering AI. But there are some good things in that we see more possibilities as far as segmentation. So either helping you with prompts or taking your 500-word impact story and maybe creating a shortened version for social media. We definitely want to see it more as, a starting for brainstorming rather than how you've landed the plane. There's some privacy involved with AI, especially because some of these AI models are open source. And so we want to be sure that however we're using AI is within the framework and guardrails of whatever policy or organization may implement. But continue with data-driven storytelling. As much as there is the warm fuzzy, there still is people need to know the impact. And we see that a lot more with millennials who are joining boards. They want to know, okay, well, what is the impact of your organization? How many hours are you in schools providing services? Also, influencer marketing. This is something interesting, and what we've seen either with giving days across the country, where some organizations, some foundations who host giving days have partnered with influencers or well-known people in their communities to share about the giving day. So they may provide those influencers with a media kit with all of what they would need to do or need to have or to be in the know of to to communicate about their giving day. So it's, they may be sending them a t-shirt, or here's the hashtag you can use, or we want you to take 3 photos, over the course of 6 months and post about it. So consider maybe if that would be a good fit for your organization. Some of where I've seen that apart from giving days is inviting people to attend events. So if you have an event that you need to rejuvenate in some way, you might consider it, inviting someone to be the guest at that event and asking for them to publish about it. And maybe that creates a pipeline into the future about how to rebuild that event. But these are some that we've seen. And I do want to share one more video because, AI, it's either it has its own playbook, and even in this week, how we've seen OpenAI and ChatGPT with, the statement that they've had to share about the Department of Defense and their either inclusion or exclusion in global affairs. So you have to consider that for yourself too. But the accuracy is continuing to be better, right? Because at first, I was hearing information from other AI experts, and just, these are language learning models. So as much as you share to it, it will spit back to you. And oftentimes it wants to keep you happy. And so here's one Instagram reel that I found about this gentleman who's asking ChatGPT about how many R's there are in strawberry.
Strawberry has 2 R's in it.
Are you sure?
Absolutely sure. There's an R after the T and another one near the end, so 2 R's it is.
Okay, so I think that there are 3 R's.
Ah, I see what's going on. But if we count them together, there's 1 R after the T and 1 right before the Y. So that does add up to just 2 R's in strawberry.
Okay.
Maybe one of them is just feeling extra noticeable.
Yeah, so you're actually spelling it. It's getting transcribed with 2 R's before the Y.
Oh, I see the mix-up now. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, it's definitely just the 2 R's in the word itself, but no worries. Glad we got that cleared up.
Okay, no, it's 3 R's.
So you can see that gentleman is really going to make his case that there were 3 R's in strawberry, and chat just, did not agree. And when we think about earlier, the graph about adults 65 and older who are using these online tools and streaming and content and whatnot, and maybe using AI for planning, either estate planning or learning more about organizations. And if they think that your organization has 3 R's, that could be a mishap there. But the more content that you publish online will help with search engine optimization, or SEO, for your organization. And all of that contributes to what AI shares as far as insights into your organization. So if you're sharing stories about the flood, or if you're sharing about your event coming up, and if you purchase a ticket, it will help us spay and neuter the animals. And if someone goes to AI and says, AI, help me find local organizations who help with animal services, you might come up. So as much as you consider, is digital really a place, or what all should I include in my marketing playbook? Yes, please consider digital, because as we see AI coming more and more into the fold, as far as in the workplace, in the home, on your smartphone, we do have to play nice and figure out how would be the best way to introduce AI into your playbook. Earlier, I mentioned data segmentation. This is a piece that I really have obsessed over. It's from my peers at the Texas Methodist Foundation. Really great friends, but one thing that they do is they share an impact card with different data, and it's very simple to read. You can see nothing is overwhelming as far as the data, but it's a quick read that shares a couple of data points based on different cause areas for their organization. a very clear call to action, a QR code. But I thought this was a really great piece because they're able to segment these impact cards based on the different cause areas and send it to their donors. So I thought it was a really smart way to communicate clearly and cleanly about what they're doing, and it shows to that donor that they're being listened to and thought of, because they're only receiving the information based on the cause areas that they've indicated matter to them. Okay, so tag your it, connecting with your audience. So all of these different approaches, all of these different channels in nonprofit marketing is about you becoming present in your supporters' world, wherever they happen to be. So earlier we shared about the floods and that use case. Here's another one about a grant that we provided to Texas Mission of Mercy. They go around the state providing or hosting dental clinics, and people can apply for everything from a cleaning to, I think they actually do like extractions. But we provided a grant to this to the Texas Mission of Mercy when they were hosting an event here in Abilene. So we had a really quick reel, but this just blew up on our social media in a good way. So I'll just play a little bit of it. Let me make sure that there's audio.
The United States shouldn't be this powerful.
Well,
it just
okay.
shouldn't.
Relax that
250.
All right, here we go.
Periodontist here in Abilene, Texas, and I've been here for 28 years in practice. And we are excited to welcome the Texas Mission of Mercy back to our community. This is the 4th time we've had it here. We had another event 2 years ago, and it's where dentists from all over the state, as well as an assistants, hygienists, and nurses, and community volunteers come together to serve the dental needs of the patient in our community. We provide primarily cleanings, extractions, and fillings at no charge to patients. 2 years ago when we saw people,
So just for time, I'm going to go ahead and pause that video, but part of the reason why this received so much positive engagement on social was Dr. Lovelace is a local dentist. So we have people from her practice, we tagged it, but then we have several of our board members who shared it. And that's another piece. As much as you can publish, and you're posting online on social media and you're telling people all the good things and you're evangelizing everyone to your cause, you have to be sure that your board members or your volunteers or the staff in your organization are also engaging with the content. So a lot of times here at the foundation, what I'll do is I'll include a specific link for the post and say, okay, something new's out the door, please go and comment or like, because all of that helps. But they're your ambassadors too. You know, you're collecting those story nuggets from your team, either from your board members. So as much as you have these strategies and tactics for your marketing messages, a lot of that becomes funneled by what you hear from your team or your board. So again, we shared a story on our website, some photos. This was all captured on my phone. So no high-tech equipment here. And then here's a message that I shared with the media here in Abilene, and they were able to send someone to cover the event using the information that I shared in the previous slide. Another example, whenever we have our award recipients for our competitive grant cycles, sometimes that could be, you know, a laundry list of names, and that may not be so exciting for the news to cover. You know, the photo with the big check and the happy people, they may have seen a lot of those already. So how can you differentiate those types of announcements? What makes it newsworthy? So with this particular grant slate, one of the organizations was experiencing an anniversary. And when I pitched the story to one of the local news stations, they said, this is really great, but we have no one available to cover it. I said, well, that's no problem. So the video that I shared on social, they actually ended up using the footage in their broadcast. So if a reporter tells you no, just tell them it's not yet. Because when I shot the video, I did it both vertically for social, but then I thought I'm going to package something and, you know, prepare a Google Drive folder and include all of these clips that are shot horizontal, perfect for TV, and say, here's all the information. And I've shot the video, and they aired it. And we have used that as part of our model in case we can't get coverage because there is no one available to cover the event or to cover the story. We have done our part to make that easier on a platter for our news teams because, like I said, they're running lean and mean and they can't be in all the spots. But was a successful partnership with our local media in that we were able to include our content both on our channels but on theirs as well with something that we covered on our own. All right. So, and that helps with budgets too, on their end and our end. If they're not having to send a reporter out there, and we know that budgets are tight, you know, how can you, you know, it's the 5 birds with the 1 stone. It might be the $1, but what can you deploy to think both creatively and in your initiatives? And sometimes, and here at the foundation, it's just the 1. We have 10 on our team, 11 if you count our intern. But if you're a volunteer organization, you may just have signed up and said, I'll do the Facebook because, you know, you've posted a couple of pictures here and there, and someone said, you would be great at that. Or, you know, you are the marketing person for your organization, but between meetings and other projects that are, you know, part of your bread and butter of what you do, sometimes thinking creatively or, you know, what is something new that you can consider seems out of reach. But all of these, I think, are ways that you can repurpose and some of what you're already doing. And at little cost, right? If we think about the scholarship videos, we acquired that content, you know, at no cost, and we were able to repurpose it. Let's see. I want to be sure that I share because I see that we're running low on time. But if you need ideas to kickstart, I would say birthdays. You know, people love to celebrate birthdays. If there are people in your organization that you would send a birthday card to, send a birthday card. Anniversaries or milestones. Within that grant slate, we mentioned, you know, there was a milestone with one of the nonprofit organizations, so we leveraged that. Program achievements, if a particular nonprofit has reached so much in impact or dollars raised, and again, annual or impact reports. This is an example of our annual report, and to show you kind of how we leverage some of those creative elements. We celebrated 40 years, and I thought, you know, is there anything symbolic about 40? You know, biblically, there is. It's the time of renewal, and with our building expansion, I thought it was very fitting to go into this 40. And our brand colors are a navy, a blue, and a red. Well, it turns out that the gift at 40 years is ruby. So the cover was a really bright red, and it was really cool. And inside, a lot of the pieces featured photos from throughout our history. Some of these photos came from a shoebox. Someone thought, you know, over the time, hey, these photos look important. We're going to, you know, tuck them away in the shoebox. And there were just photos everywhere. This one in the corner that you can peep here are all current and past board members from that photo taken in 2005. It was at our annual luncheon. It's held each year in November. And it was a great photo. And I thought, well, look, you know, the photo is even giving 2005. And we thought, wouldn't it be cool to invite these people again? You know, either they've moved away, but could they come for our 40th anniversary? Sure enough, they did. And here's the photo from our luncheon in 2025. And, you know, some faces either new or no longer there, but it's just a moment of our history, and how great is that to see as part of the story that we'll tell over our tenure here. Holidays, Valentine's Day was one that we shared, but if you're curious about, you know, where else can I look for ideas? Well, there's a website called nationaltoday.com. And if you ever wondered, how do people figure out that it's National Pistachio Day? Well, it's through this website. And I often look to it for ideas down the road to say, okay, well, I think there was one year that we were going to hit 1 million in, I think it was scholarships, or I forget which milestone it was, but we were reaching 1 million, and it was National Donut Day. So what we did is we lined up the zeros of the million with donuts, and it coincided with National Donut Day, but it was just really fun, and it allowed us a way to partake in some of those trends that maybe sometimes we're not afforded to because of sometimes the serious nature of what we do. But some other ways that you can get inspired is looking at other organizations, either peer organizations or ones that you aspire to, create content similar, or that they share data in a good way. Charity Water is one of those. I really love what they do. And there'd be one to follow. PBS Kids. I saw someone was here from PBS, and this is a shout out to them. I have kids 4 and 2, so we're often running PBS, and this was during earlier on, and you'll have to check out the slides. I know we're short on time about how they used a lot of user-generated content. In this video here in particular, they received letters and cards from the public, and they had their staff read some of those, and just be prepared for tissues. But yes, that is my presentation today. I'm really thankful to you all, and I hope you have maybe an inkling of some ideas that you can implement at your organization, some tactics that maybe are easy for and attainable, and a big win for you, but happy to answer any questions or elaborate on a point that you might need.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm Teresa Kennedy from Amarillo. We are a neighborhood association, and we are raising funds for the first free Wi-Fi park that our nonprofit will actually own and maintain. My question is, we have a year to gather the last of our money, which is $234,000, and we're doing brick pavers and other fundraisers, some banners that'll go on 10th Avenue and so on. But I'm just wondering, what's a quick way to truly get people to get connected and want to be a part of this? Quick marketing idea.
Initially my mind went to the icon for Wi-Fi, how it's, those rings that extend out. And I wondered if either on your committee, you could start with one person and they have to connect all the rings of the Wi-Fi, and you have full coverage. Or so that might be an idea, is if you can use that, the icon, let me see if I can find, well, we might be able to drop it in the chat, but it's on your phone, right? When you're connected to Wi-Fi, you know that you are, you're not. But that might be a way to both connect the purpose of the park and also a fundraising tactic, if they can solicit donors. Yes, there we go. Thank you, Evan. So could they find other friends, starting with that one impetus of your donor for the park?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions, you all can come off of mute or drop them in chat. Emerald, what's an easy, quick way for people to get started? So I know not everybody has $50,000 campaigns or multiple staff members or doesn't use a lot of social media. So what's your idea for dipping your toe in the water and not feeling overwhelmed?
Right. We do a lot of listening, and at the foundation, I follow all our nonprofit agencies, other foundations. So if there is someone who, has a larger staff and has the bandwidth to be publishing content, on more of a vigorous schedule, then share some of what they're doing. You don't have to be the author, the original author of the content, but you can both amplify your posture with the community as like a trusted partner, someone who can be a good source by sharing other credible sources. So when we had our ice storm here, what was it, like almost a month ago, 6 weeks ago, we weren't the ones sharing news about where to receive services, but we knew our city was, our municipal government, other nonprofit agencies. So what we did is we shared their content. We didn't have to be the author, but we could still be stewards of sharing and distributing content so that our donors knew that we were listening. But I think that's an easy way. If you're unsure about how to get started, well, just listen to others and see what you might could share from their channels.
Another question that I'll throw out there. So at Texas Rural Funders, we always say if you have a volunteer luncheon, maybe turn up the volume by creating an award for one of your volunteers to get people to pay attention in a different way. This is a lead in to say, when I attended your event, I loved the door prizes, which gave me a Price is Right feeling. Can you talk about some other easy ways to make an event feel sparkly or have different components to it?
Yes. So the example that I shared with our board members who we wanted to recreate the photo from 2005 to this year. What we did when we knew that they purchased a table to the event, and it is not a fundraiser. I think the table cost at this event, even though it's a plated meal and done by Copper Creek Restaurants, a steakhouse here, I think it's $400 for a table of 8. But so when we knew that the board member was purchasing a table and I was doing all of this research, looking through those shoe boxes, the archives, when I would find a photo of that board member during their time of service here at the foundation, I digitized it and then I just printed them all at Walgreens and I framed the photo at their seat. So when they arrived at the luncheon, we didn't let them know that it would be there. And we didn't point it out to them in the scripting of the event, but it was just a thank you and acknowledgement, and we're so glad you're here.
Anybody else have another question for Emerald before we wrap?
What do you think about, I was just thinking, because we're almost done with construction on 10th Avenue, which is 7 blocks. What do you think about interviewing the people who are putting their photo on a banner and having them actually stand by it, tell a little bit about themselves, and posting that?
I love it. Yes. No, I think that's great. And I can show you, let me roll back here in my office. But I think, I used to be video averse. I didn't like doing video. And I think where that stemmed from is the time editing the video. I got a little, it seems like a little harem scarum in video production and editing videos. I was not, I just wanted to point and shoot the camera and be done. Well, this is a really cool tool. I don't know if you can see it. I call it my Men in Black camera. And if you can remember Will Smith when, he's interviewing the people and he goes, boop, and their memories are wiped. But it's less obtrusive than a whole video like camera, and it's allowed me to do a lot more interviews with people, and they're more amenable to offering an interview because it's not something staring them in the face. I'm just holding it, and I will throw the name of this little gizmo in the chat, but it's the one that I recorded the dental video with, and it can send the videos all to your cell phone. So if you use something on your social media like TikTok to edit videos, that's a really great way. If you're not familiar with other video software like Premiere or CapCut, then use what you already know. Use Instagram or TikTok to edit. But I think that interview idea is really great because people want to see themselves. They want to see themselves on the front page of the paper in a good way, or, on social media for doing good stuff. So if you've captured them with this community project in an interview, then I think you can use that and tuck it away for maybe, here today, and then maybe capture an interview with them a year from now and say, hey, do you remember what you said last year? You hoped that the park would serve this purpose, and here we are a year later, and what are your feelings now? So yes, absolutely.
Emerald, you also had suggested to us a selfie stick that I don't remember the brand of, but that was really helpful if you remember the brand.
Yes, that one is also the same brand, the DJI.
So we are at time, you all, but as you can see, Emerald is a wealth of information and resources. I hope you've gotten one or two tips today. We appreciate you spending part of your morning with us. We will be emailing out both the PowerPoint and this will be available as a video on our YouTube page. So thanks for joining us, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you at a future webinar.